Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This session is all about making ketogenic in the kitchen. And we have the great honor of hosting Dawn Marie Martens, author of 2 keto cookbooks and many delicious recipes that are available on the Trust website. Oops, and her daughter, Charlotte. And I'm going to pin you, Dawn, to bring.
Can you turn the volume up on the phone? Please?
Yeah, we got to get our technical quirkies out of.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you well. Let me.
Okay.
I think I need to stop screen sharing. There we go. Okay, I want to bring you up as the main video. Okay, great. Hello.
Hi.
Your camera's up here.
Yeah. Say hi. Hi.
Hi, sweetie.
Just me come around and say hi. And we have my son, the cameraman.
Hi.
Hi, cameraman. You're no longer Eddie Van Halen.
No.
Which is what he was for Halloween, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, thank
And
you. And Charlotte, you were.
She was a pink M&M.
That was darling. Okay, so I'm going to let you take it away. And, you know, this is very informal. We've got several people watching, and then we're going to have a Q&A. But Dawn, if you ever want to stop in the middle and just say, does anybody have questions about something that you are doing that you think is warranting a little bit more explanation? So take it away. What are we making?
Okay. Hi, everybody. I don't know about where everybody else is, but it's freezing cold and very windy here today, which is kind of funny because ironically, I decided to make 2 frozen recipes. I thought that it would be kind of a good idea to take everybody through one day of what it looks like doing keto in our house. Charlotte has been on various versions of the ketogenic diet now for just over 10 years, right? So she's the real pro. And we currently are using a modified version of the diet, but we still include some very high fat recipes like fat bombs and some other even above 4-to-1 ratio recipes to help keep our ketones higher. So I thought that it would be really neat to go through a typical day. So today I'm going to do a fat bomb recipe, which is a pumpkin spice fat bomb. And we're going to make a breakfast smoothie, 2 items that we make frequently. And then tomorrow we're going to make a dinner recipe and a lunch recipe. So over these 2 days, you'll see an example of what Charlotte would be eating in the course of one day. Does that make sense, Beth? Yes? Good?
Yeah, sounds wonderful.
Yeah, so we're going to start off today with a green banana smoothie. And actually, Beth, I've been using your modified booklet, which has this blend a meal chart in it. And this is something that's available in the Charlie Foundation Keto store. But basically, this chart makes building a smoothie very easy because you pick a protein, you pick a probiotic, a milk type base or water, and then add fat, carb, and some enhancements. So it's a quick and easy chart to help build smoothies. And we are actually using green bananas as the carb. And you can see these bananas are very, very green. And I actually like to buy these Here, you want to show everybody? These cute, show them up here. Up there. Can you see how tiny these bananas are?
Mhm.
These guys, so here's the big bananas, and then we can find these tiny little baby bananas in our grocery store. Once we buy them, they ripen up very quickly, so I typically only buy 4 at a time, and then peel them when they're all green and just stick them in the freezer in a container. That way I know that they haven't gone. These guys are a little bit too yellow to use for her keto smoothies. But so we'll have to use one of the big bananas. But I just had to show those cute, tiny little bananas because they're so much fun, right? Yeah. So also I wanted to mention that Charlotte is 15 now, right? Right?
Yes.
Yep, she'll be 16 this spring. And we're really working towards independence for her. And I don't mean total independence, but I do want her to feel confident in the kitchen and in all aspects of her life, where that she's able to do things for herself, like make her own breakfast, assemble her own lunch. That doesn't always mean that you have to cook a recipe with heat or it has to be complicated with a lot of steps. Even just assembling a meal out of ready-made ingredients or making something simple like a smoothie is a huge step towards independence, which makes her feel really good, right?
Yeah.
Because she really likes to come downstairs in the morning and eat her own breakfast on her own. And
With Daddy.
with Daddy, not with me. and kind of do her own thing, which is, you know, a part of becoming a more mature person. So we're kind of really thinking a lot about that lately. And it's been kind of fun, right?
Yeah.
Except for when messes happen, but that's fine too. So we're gonna start with the green banana smoothie. And for Charlotte, our recipe is a 1.6 to 1 ratio, so just below a 2 to 1 ratio recipe. But oftentimes she'll have a small fat bomb in the morning as well because she has a little bit of a sweet tooth. And she likes to eat them. So, you want to get started?
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to mix together. Let's see. We need our container, which I forgot. I knew there would be something. All right. We're going to mix together everything in this lightweight container, just because I'm going to quadruple the recipe. When I make smoothies, I only have a large blender right now, so if I make smoothies, we're going to quadruple the recipe and then freeze the rest into popsicles, which is another one of my favorite tips, because then there's ready-made meals that are waiting in the freezer, and there's always the mornings that are busy and rushed, and smoothie popsicles are a perfect breakfast. All right, so we're actually going to weigh this out live here. So the first thing we need is the yogurt. So we're using the Fage brand. Is that close enough, Beth? Can you let me know if people can see?
Yep, 5%. We can see it.
Yep, the Fage brand. This is a great brand that we've used for a long, long time. Charlotte, you can be the stir. Do you want to get a little mini spatula? And there's no added sugar in this yogurt. So this is pretty much as keto friendly as you get. The 5% here is the full fat variety as well. So it calls for 25 grams. So I'm going to do 100 grams. And Charlotte, can you hold up that little spatula for everybody? that is the classic Charlie Foundation spatula, which we have in an entire, we probably have 15 of them. At this point, we use them like spoons in our house. Okay, so there's the yogurt. What's next? The protein. So we are using, the protein that we use is the Vital Proteins Collagen. And I really like this because it mixes so well. And it doesn't have an aftertaste, right?
No.
Like the chalky flavor that sometimes you get in other protein powders. So she gets 15 grams, so we're gonna put in 60 since we're quadrupling this recipe. Almost there, and then you can start. Okay. And I know you can't see the numbers on the scale, but I'm weighing it in this lightweight Tupperware container first before I add it to the blender, just in case I make a mistake and overweigh or overpour an ingredient. I can easily take some back out. All right, what's next?
Coconut milk? Wait, no.
Well, we can do the coconut milk. Coconut milk, and this is the canned Thai Kitchen, and of course it's the unsweetened, so it says 25 grams, so we're going to add 100. When you open coconut milk cans, you want to make sure that you stir the coconut milk very well because it tends to separate in the can. Is that 100? A little bit over.
Is that 10?
It's 102. So we'll take a little scoop out. Okay. All right, perfect. And then what's next?
MCT.
Right? MCT. How much? 30 grams of MCT oil. So we're going to add quite a bit. This is MCT oil is my favorite for smoothies because it has zero flavor and it's kind of a less oily texture and consistency than many other types of oils. So that was 90, 36, 9, 12. I need 120 grams. So again, this is 4 servings, and Charlotte is very well acclimated to MCT oil. So if somebody is just beginning keto, I would not recommend this much MCT oil to start with because it can have some side effects that are a little unpleasant, but you're good, right?
Yeah.
All right, you want to give that a stir for a minute? And I'm going to peel the banana. Knife.
Free.
Okay, you can put it back on the scale. Okay. How much banana does it say? 15?
Yeah, 15.
Okay. So that's going to be, we're going to add 60 grams of banana. I'm just slicing it in. And banana is like a really special treat for her because she doesn't really sit down and just snack on a banana. That's not keto friendly on its own. The green banana is important because they have less sugar, right, Beth, when they're in the green state. The longer they ripen, as they turn from yellow to brown, the higher in sugar content the bananas become. So it's not okay to swap a very yellow, brown, super sweet banana for a green banana when you're on a ketogenic diet. Is there anything else you wanted to add about that, Beth?
Just that the fact that the sugars are in a state of development where they're in a fiber form.
Mm-hmm. So they're
So
they
fiber as a green banana.
mm-hmm.
And
and
then
we definitely need all the fiber we can get.
And then they still have their potassium content, so it's a great potassium source.
Right. So the last thing we add, just for a little flavor, is some cinnamon. And we have about 3 grams per smoothie. So I buy almost everything. As you can see, this is a giant cinnamon. I buy almost everything in bulk. And it works out to about 1 gram per smoothie, so 3 grams total. And you could add some sweetener, which is completely unnecessary in my opinion. Even though it's a green banana, it still tastes really yummy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people have talked about over the years, you can give that a little stir before we put it in the blender. A lot of people will mention that when they first begin keto, they really miss having sweet treats and crunchy, salty snacks, but your taste buds really do adapt over time, and things that weren't sweet to you before, like natural sugars in fruit, become very satisfyingly sweet. Even the coconut milk that we added in this smoothie, which is completely unsweetened, tastes very sweet to me now after all these years without having added sugar. So I always like to encourage people to try and move away from adding any additional sweeteners, even if they are marketed as keto friendly. Okay. Ready?
Yeah.
JT, we're gonna go blend.
Okay.
Need my cameraman to follow me. And we're gonna add a few ice cubes to this as well. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that good?
Mm-hmm.
So this is a high-speed blender that I bought refurbished because the cost is quite high, but we use this every day, and it really, with not only with smoothies, but also with soups and other purees. And I felt that the cost really was worth it. Okay, put that in the sink and let's grab, I'm gonna grab a few ice cubes. Put them in. Stick the lid on. And then if, I don't know if you want us to mute, do you think we should mute while we're blending, Beth?
No, you're fine.
Okay, ready? Hit it. On. Looks good, right? Yep. All right, let's carry it back over here. All right, and go back to the counter. So again, this is, let me move this away. This is 4 servings. It's about a quarter of the capacity of my blender, which is really the minimum that this blender likes to blend successfully. So let's get a cup. And I would when you're serving this, since we've made a batch, 4 servings at once, you would total up the weight of all of the ingredients in grams and weigh out that amount in your serving glass. And I actually did not total that up, but let me see if I can do it real quick. 60, 70, 80, 85, 95, 10, 113 grams. So let's weigh that out in the glass. And it's quite thick. You can always thin smoothies with water. Oops. But sometimes Charlotte likes to eat them like pudding as well. So there you go. That's about 1 serving if you can see in this glass. But again, you could make it a larger serving just by adding some more water, and that will thin it out. Right now it's kind of like a banana pudding consistency. You want to try it?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Good.
You like it?
Yeah.
Okay, so now that we have some smoothie left over, as you can see in the blender, as I mentioned, I like to freeze them. So I am a huge fan of these Zipsicle bags because they're kind of like Ziploc bags for popsicles. And they are disposable, which saves me a lot of time. I know it's not exactly the most eco-friendly option, but I really kind of need it sometimes. We have an entire bin full of popsicle molds, don't we?
Yeah.
And then we lose pieces to them and they get hard to clean. So I think my next investment is going to be a stainless steel popsicle mold, which might hold up a little bit better, don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to grab a funnel real quick. And I think I might actually thin this out a little bit with some more water. So hold on. Now I chose to add a little more water just to make it easier to pour. You would have to add the water in grams if the portion sizes need to be weighed specifically, because the water weight does change the weight of the recipe. So it's as simple as that. Now we have that one filled. Should we do another one?
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions right now? Fill it up. See how easy that is? So now we just stick these in the freezer door and they're ready to go whenever we need them. And it makes, I really like to be efficient when I'm making recipes. I spent many years making 1 serving at a time, especially when you first started the diet, but you don't even remember that, do you?
Yeah. Definitely.
And it's very laborious at times, and we have, you know, a very busy schedule. My son is involved in activities. Charlotte has lots of fun activities, and we're on the go a lot. Of course, COVID has kind of made that, you know, kind of a little bit more quiet, but even with school at home, things are still, you know, really hectic for us. So I really try and be efficient when I'm cooking, and I rarely make 1 serving meals any longer. even for our whole family, I really like to cook, if I'm gonna make a big recipe, at least 2 batches of it and double what I'm making, because it really helps me to have kind of like this bank of food that's ready to eat in our freezer or in our refrigerator. And that way I'm not stuck cooking something every single day for every single meal, right?
Yeah.
Are you tired?
I don't know.
All right, Beth. So that's the end of that recipe. And I could keep filling these, but do you have any questions or comments?
I don't. Charlotte, do you love this recipe, or do you have other smoothies that you also like?
What's your favorite smoothie?
I actually don't know.
Probably, she gets a little camera shy. Probably, I would say the chocolate peanut butter,
Oh.
Yeah.
right? So for the chocolate peanut butter, we use peanut butter, of course, that's unsweetened, and cacao powder. If I will use cocoa powder as well, but I like to use the cacao powder. Am I even saying that right, Beth? Do you think?
Yeah.
But it's a little bit less processed than cocoa powder,
Mhm.
and it tastes just as good, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's unbelievably low in carbohydrate and high in fat, the unsweetened version. And
Right.
the thing I love about green banana smoothies is there's, the green bananas aren't sweet, but there's just enough little tiny sweet to help flavor the unsweetened chocolate. So still, you don't need to add a sweetener to it. I think it's mildly sweet enough, and especially with the coconut milk in it too. That's my
Absolutely.
favorite.
So I didn't have bananas for her for a very long time. There was years. She went years on keto without eating any form of a banana. And when we first realized that we could eat green bananas and include them in some of the recipes, it was a little bit like fear factor in our house, where I thought, this is not going to taste good. I was imagining like a raw potato. I don't know. And it doesn't taste like that at all. I think they still have a lot of the banana flavor that people really like. And of course, what's funny, Beth, is every time we share our banana muffins or bread recipe on social media, all the keto police come out and say that bananas are not keto. How is that possible? So we can help dispel the bananas on keto myth today.
Yes, awesome. Love that recipe. That's great.
Yep, and that was built using, the blend a meal chart in this book. Green bananas, though, are not on this as a carb option, though, Beth. So maybe we could add that
Yes, I do. Thank you. I will.
In a future edit.
In the next update, it will be in there.
But it's kind of a nice to have a list. She'll even choose different things off of the list in there to switch it up. It's kind of like mix and match,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
All right, why don't you stick these in the freezer? And we can move to the next recipe. Clean up a little bit. This is so different doing this at home than up on a stage. I'm not nearly as nervous as I normally would be.
I know, you're very natural. It's working great for you.
This whole, Zoom learning experience is kind of like really good camera training for everybody. Since we all get to see into each other's houses and be on Zoom all the time now. All right, so what's next?
I don't know what's next.
What is next? pumpkin spice fat bombs. So we had cinnamon in the smoothie, right?
Yeah.
This one turned out super thick. Sometimes it's interesting. Ingredients will vary when they're in a can, and I think it's mostly the coconut milk. And you'll see that sometimes it'll turn out more thick than it was a previous time you made it with the very same exact ingredients. So it's okay to adjust things and add water and change it up a little when you need to.
Yeah.
Right? You just have to account for it. Okay. Here's my book, by the way. This is the first Keto Cookbook, which is all the 4-to-1 ratio recipes. The recipe that we're going to make tomorrow, which is the peanut butter and jelly cookies, is in this book. And this is actually turning 10 years old, I think.
Oh my gosh, really?
Already. And I don't know how that happened.
Wow.
So we'll be using that tomorrow. But for now, this is a newer recipe that I made, I think just last year for fall, because Charlotte really loves to use all of these fun silicone molds.
Oh.
And we have so many of them. If you can see, these are little jack-o'-lanterns. We just made black cats, right?
Gosh, these are all Halloween.
Yep, so we just passed Halloween, so all of these were out in our house. And, you know, candy corns, of course, one of your favorites. Charlotte loves all things candy and sweet.
I have a big giant pile of candy in my room from Halloween.
We don't know what's going to happen with that pile of candy, but I have a feeling it's going to disappear. But we really like to include fun things like this. It's completely not necessary to have all of these silicone molds and everything. You can use ice cube trays. You can use a like a 9x9 pan lined with parchment paper and just pour the whole batch in and then cut it once it's solidified. So don't feel like you need to go out and get all of these silicone molds. These we have accumulated for years and years, a little bit at a time. And we have some for each holiday and season, basically. Like Christmas coming up. And we really like to use them just because it really brings her a lot of joy, right?
Yeah.
So she loves to open up the freezer and get her fat bombs, and they're in the shape of a candy corn, and that makes her really happy. So that's really important to us, right?
Yeah.
Right. So for this recipe, it's really 2 recipes combined into one. It's the pumpkin spice fat bombs, which is basically coconut base. And then we also are going to make the ketogenic caramel, which is an incredibly high ratio because it's basically emulsified cream and butter. And we're going to add a little bit of the caramel to the top of the fat bombs. So how about we start with the pumpkin spice part first? And then which ones do you think we should use?
Candy corn next.
Candy corns? And how about these big pumpkins?
Yeah, the scary ones.
Yeah, okay. So Beth, I know this is one of your favorite tools, the infamous mug warmer. If you ever go into a thrift store or Goodwill, you will find about 20 of these laying around on the shelves. So don't go buy one new for about $10 to $15, whatever they charge. But this is how I melt. This is, let me show you the label. This is coconut manna, coconut butter, basically. This brand calls it coconut manna. And it's very hard, like similar to butter when it's cold. But if you heat it up, it melts down into a really smooth, pourable consistency. And rather than put this jar in the microwave, you just sit it on top of the mug warmer, and it will take a little bit of time, but this has been sitting here about an hour and it's completely melted. And in fact, if you keep melting it, I discovered that you can make toasted coconut manna, which actually adds another layer of flavor. So if you think of toasted coconut versus untoasted coconut, kind of the same flavor profile. Let's turn that off now that that's melted. But those mug warmers come in handy. Okay, let's see what we need. Got our scale, and we need our measuring cup. Leave that on. All right. Put that away. I really need those magic elves behind me to come clear all the dirty dishes. Okay, so what's first?
Pumpkin.
Pumpkin. So we are using canned pumpkin, right? Do you want to measure it? Sure. And we'll just make one serving with this. So you can put in 60 grams into here, okay? So fat bombs are something that we always have on hand. They are part of Charlotte's diet every day. So we like to make lots of different varieties, and I like to keep them. This is a really easy thing to keep seasonal. So right now we're making a lot of cinnamon, pumpkin. Yep, it's a little, there we go. A little tad more. Pumpkin, cinnamon, ginger type of, it's nice to use a lot of fall type flavors and ingredients. And then of course in the spring, you know, we get lots of fresh berries and mint and all kinds of lemon. Yeah. So it's really a nice way to kind of include seasonal eating in your diet. Okay. I need to take that out. What's next? Cinnamon. Let's put that in last. Let's go to the coconut manna. No. You want to pour it? Okay. It's a little more. Okay, you're going to go to 114 grams.
Wow.
Don't lean on the glass, remember? And you can see how easy that is to pour right now. There you go. You can mix that a little bit. Coconut manna also tends to separate in the jar. When you first buy it, you'll notice that there's a layer of coconut oil on top. So it is important to, if you're going to use this ingredient, to completely melt the jar first and stir it together very well. And then you can add your other ingredients. Okay, so we also need some butter. And I'm gonna measure that separately while you can keep stirring. And we need 1 stick of butter, which is 114 grams. And this recipe is a 7.5 to 1 ratio. So it's a very high fat fat bomb. Forgot to melt our butter. Oops. Yep, that's good. Okay. The butter will make it nice and melty.
Not done yet.
Not yet. Almost. I meant to do that beforehand, but probably have to scrape all this in. Yep, can you scrape that a little? Perfect. All right. And how about you grab the cinnamon?
It's right behind you.
And give a little sprinkle. So you could add cinnamon to this. You could, this time of year, you'll see the pumpkin spice. You'll see the dry pumpkin spice blend out this time of year. I always like to buy a few jars of that. I think that's good. I always like to buy a few jars of the pumpkin spice to have on hand because it's not available during the spring and we like to use it. You could also add ginger to this. What else?
I actually don't know.
Okay. Then you just put it in the molds. And sometimes, so what can happen when you're mixing a lot of fats together is they can be very temperature sensitive. And the butter was slightly too hot when I poured it into this. So we'll kind of take a minute until it begins to cool down and re-emulsify for this to blend together and look very, very smooth. And that's okay. This is not a ruined recipe, or this is not a problem. You just have to learn how fats act when combined with other ingredients. And since this is such a high fat recipe, you can see that it kind of looks a little bit like it's curdled, but it's not actually curdled. It's just because the butter is a lot warmer than the other ingredients. So if I were to keep stirring this or come back to this in about 5 minutes and stir it again, it will blend together very nicely and homogeneously. But just for example purposes right now, we could fill one of these. And it's still okay to eat. And have you ever had that happen, Beth?
Yeah, I tend to do everything in my blender. I have a little bullet blender. It's not as good as your high-speed blender, so I can't do things like, you know, avocados that aren't softened yet. I know people will throw that in the blender, and I have to wait for mine to get soft because my little blender won't take care of that. But it does a good job with, you know, this type of a recipe. But
yeah,
like you're saying, it's still fine to eat. I mean, it's
so and this is when you would just let it sit for a minute, maybe stick it in a bowl of ice or ice water and let it start cooling down. I've answered so many questions about this over the years, so it's kind of funny that this does still happen to us even after 10 years of making keto recipes. But you eventually learn that, you know, it's just because this fat is too warm right now. The butter really should have been closer to room temperature and very, very soft, not fully melted. And then it would have mixed together more smoothly. Yeah. But luckily, I made some ahead of time. Okay, so we would fill these into the molds right now. And then I like to leave about a 1/4 inch on the top reserved to add the caramel sauce, right? So we don't want to fill these completely to the top. Even these little ones, I would just fill them about 3/4 of the way full. And then the rest is going to be room for the caramel sauce. So I'm going to actually let this sit. And then maybe by the time we're done making the caramel sauce, I can show you how this would blend together better. In the meantime, JT, we're going to go over to the stove. Okay. apron come untied?
Okay.
And I need another stick of butter.
I love that you're cooking in your socks.
Yeah, this is home cooking at its finest.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so I don't have a fancy stove here. In fact, this is the first time I've ever had an electric stove, and it was a big learning curve for me. But after 3 years of living in this house, I think we're finally getting there. So what we're gonna make now is ketogenic caramel. And this is one of my absolute most favorite recipes ever. I actually was watching a cooking show once, and they were making caramel, real caramel with sugar. And I saw them in this process, and I thought, I could probably make caramel without sugar using the same exact process. And so basically, I just ran into the kitchen and tried it, and it turned out really amazing. What this is 1 stick of unsalted butter, and it's important to use the unsalted butter for this recipe because otherwise it will taste like a very, very salty caramel because we're cooking this down quite a bit. And Beth, how are we doing on time?
We're doing fine. You can go over because the next session is just open discussion. So don't,
Okay,
you can keep going.
It's 4:45.
okay. I wasn't sure which clock in my house had been adjusted yet. So the first step of this recipe is to melt the butter down completely.
And it's melting very quickly.
It's melting very quickly because I have the heat really turned up. And it's going to bubble and get frothy and steam a lot. And that is all of the moisture in the butter cooking out, which is exactly what we want. Now the goal here is to cook this down until the milk solids in the butter begin to caramelize. And you can hear, if you can you get close so they can hear this?
Oh, yeah.
And you hear all the moisture and it's kind of bubbly and loud right now.
Mhm.
The minute that this butter gets quiet is when the milk solids are going to start cooking and turning brown and giving us that caramel flavor. So now here's the last few bubbles going. And you can see it's silent now. And look how fast that goes.
So that's the point in time that you start whisking it. So right, Dawn, up until then, you
Yep.
don't have to touch it. You just are
You
letting
don't,
it go.
I just kind of, let it go around. So now it's completely silent. All the bubbles are gone and all the water moisture is cooked out of this butter. So now we're gonna add, you wanna pour that in, Charlotte? We're gonna add equal amount of heavy cream in gram weights. And I like to take it off the heat because you can see the cream will make it froth and bubble again. Okay. And then we just continue to stir this. And you can see the consistency is very loose. It's kind of the same consistency of heavy cream right now. So I am returning this to the heat. And we're gonna let this cream boil and keep stirring. And I actually like to switch to the silicone at this point. We're gonna let this cook down for about a minute. And you'll know it's ready when you start getting, you can leave a line. How do you say that? I always forget. And the mixture will get very thick.
Oh.
So I'm just equally scraping all of the sides and the bottom to make sure that there's no brown bits stuck to the bottom. There'll be a little bit, but that's okay. And this cream continues to cook down, and it turns thick pretty quickly. It only takes about a minute or two.
Does it smell as good as it looks?
Does it smell good?
Yeah.
It smells shockingly like caramel. So I think this could be even described as the caramel milk, caramel, is it Life Days? I forget what it's called. It's like a caramelized milk in a can that's popular in South American cooking.
Oh.
I would believe I've never had that, but I would believe this is very similar to that because of the cream.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it's not sweetened. You can see this is getting almost done. So I am going to add just a pinch of salt. And that's about it. Can you see how now when I move the spoon or the spatula, it kind of leaves a little trail?
Yes.
And it's very thick now. And it will continue to thicken as it cools. And this is extremely hot right now. So this is the kind of thing, this is nearly 100% fat. And this is the type of thing you do not want to splash on yourself. So you should be very cautious when you're working with this. But this now you can pour into a container. A glass container with a spout is usually the best option. And use it, keep it in the fridge and use it before it hardens completely. And it's just still a little bit cooler but not completely solidified. Once this is put in the refrigerator or the freezer and left there for a while, it will completely re-solidify and harden similar to butter. So let's pull out what we made earlier. All right, you can go back that way. We've always gotten a lot of questions about that recipe as well. People think that they're not making it right. But I think, oh, not that. Get the green ones. Yeah. Okay. So these are some fat bombs that we made earlier. And on the top, I mentioned how I filled these about 3/4 of the way. This is the caramel layer on top. And the great thing about these silicone ones is that they usually pop out, but of course, if you're on live camera, they never do. There we go. So this is the pumpkin spice caramel fat bomb. And then you would just go ahead and pop all of these out, throw them in a storage container, and keep them in the freezer, and they're ready to go. Charlotte likes to kind of gnaw on them like ice cubes, right? But it can be helpful for the rest of us that have teeth sensitivity and don't want to break a tooth to let them warm up for a minute or two. But they're really handy to have on in your arsenal of food, right? Keto food that's ready to go. So
if you let them come to room temperature, are they just like soft butter consistency?
Yep. If you let them come fully to room temperature, they'll be like a butter consistency, almost like a cross between like a pumpkin pie consistency, maybe.
Okay.
but they're very smooth. They're very well blended, so you can make these in any size. We even have these very tiny. Let me show you. These tiny little hearts. Sometimes if I'm patient, I like to fill these tiny little hearts. You can see they're about the size of my fingernail. And they're like mini ones. But these can be used for, you know, feeding. Yep, even for feeding therapies and, you know, other concerns with people that are learning how to feed orally or with toddlers. This is great starter food.
Excellent.
So that's about it, right?
Yeah.
Those were the 2 recipes we had today, and that actually took me longer than I thought it would.
But your timing is right on. It's 5 before the hour. So I think you did a great job. And your sous chef is very helpful to have. It's great to have. It is cool to have 2 people doing a cooking demo.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's always better with a friend.
Yeah.
Who gets to clean up the kitchen now?
Oh, me, of course.
I think that's what the sous chef does. They have to clean the kitchen.
I feel like that's all I do all day, every day. Especially since we rarely leave the house anymore.
Yeah.
All right, you guys, thank you. Thank you, JT. This is wonderful. It's been recorded. And I know they'll put it up for other people since, unfortunately, I think people are still struggling to get logged into sessions.
That's a bummer.
I see someone, Ava just came on. Ava, I don't know when you showed up, but did you have any questions before we say goodbye? We have like 4 minutes left of this session.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Yes. Yeah, I've been having trouble getting into all kinds of any meetings or anything. It's been, you know, just timing me out. But my daughter actually has JME. And we were interested in about the diets and stuff. So I don't even know. I know you were doing some demonstration on the recipes. And I guess I just wanted to know if there's like a special like book or a different website, or so I can see more about the way that we eat, that it does affect her and stuff.
Yeah. So are you?
Sorry, I didn't even compare. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Just to clarify, so I understand what you're asking. Are you wanting to try out some of the keto recipes?
The keto, yeah.
Just to get a sense of what it's like to be on the diet.
Right.
Okay.
For her. So.
So Dawn, who is in the center screen here, is mom of Charlotte, who just left a minute ago. Charlotte's been on the diet for how many years, Dawn?
It's just over 10. It'll be 11 this June. So
Dawn has written 2 cookbooks, and one is on the classic ketogenic diet, which she has a copy of right there. And one is for the modified, the more liberal versions of keto, which is what we tend to use for teenagers and adults. So those are available on the Charlie Foundation website in the store. But there's also great recipes. There's a recipe link. It's our most visited page of the website. Dawn has designed most of the recipes. There's some even little cooking videos, but it's meant to give you a taste of what's on there. Plus, a lot of them are specialty things that you couldn't even buy at a grocery store, like keto pancakes or chocolate birthday cake that's keto. So they're great to try out. And in place of the high carbohydrate foods that you are currently consuming. So that's a great place to start.
Okay. And then do you have those books just on like Amazon or just on the Charlie Foundation website?
charliefoundation.org, and then you'll see a link at the top for store. They're in the store. Yeah, and if you go through the store, the Dawn donates the proceeds to the Charlie Foundation. If you buy them on Amazon, the Charlie Foundation
Oh
doesn't.
no.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. No. I want to do the right thing. So
Yeah.
okay.
You can
I'll take a
also
look.
email me and I can send you some sample recipes from the books as well. Just so you can get a good idea of it.
So her email
I
address
appreciate
is very easy. It's
Yep. It's just Dawn, DAWN, at charliefoundation.org.
Okay, that is easy. Foundation.org. Okay, thank you. And my name is actually Nancy. Ava's my daughter. So I had to get in through this way. So I'll be emailing you then
okay.
On that. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for joining. All right, great job.
My chef left. All right, bye everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for having us.
See you tomorrow. Same station, same
Bye, thank
time,
you.
different recipes. Bye, Charlotte.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Did a great job, Charlotte.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. You too,
Please,
Jason. Thank you.